Welcome back to God is Alive. My name is Serena, and here I speak all about what it truly means to have a personal relationship with God. We have faith every day that we'll wake up tomorrow, so I want to start a fire in your heart to stop chasing the temporary things of this world and to put that same faith in God. So let's learn about God and learn to lean on God, because what's the worst that could happen? Hi, my loves. Welcome back to God is Alive. My name is Serena, and today I'll be speaking about worry doesn't change a thing, but faith does. The reason I wanted to talk about this today is, I don't know about you, but I find myself always worrying. Sometimes I don't even think about it as worrying, but thinking about the unknown, planning for the unknown, thinking about next week, thinking about the best ways to do certain things. And I know it's from me trying to plan and be prepared. I'm not going to lie, I'm more of like a type A personality, if you know what I'm talking about when I say that. So I like to know, like, if this happens, I'm going to plan for this. But if this happens, then I'll plan for that. You know what I'm saying? And I try to have it all lined up so it can be perfect. No flaws, no holes in it. And I know that God and the Bible tells me not to worry, but there's so much stuff going on. How can I not? You know what I mean? It's like saying, you need to be eating healthier. Like, yes, I know that. But sometimes I just crave some fries, and it's just so normal. So I'm not trying to call out my mama right now, but who else has a mama that worries? A lot. I know I'm not the only one. Drive safe. Text me when you get there. If this happens, call me. And there's a reason why this worry exists. Worry is this instinct. It's like this little thought telling us to be alert of the danger or the unknown. And that's the key right there with worry. It almost always involves the unknown. And when you have something unknown in your life, which we all do, that is where most of your worry is going to reside. Where am I going to be a year from now? How am I going to pay my bills? What if I send this text and it backfires? It's these thoughts about the unknown that we try to plan for to ensure the best results possible. Therefore, worry arises when we want to control the unknown. Let me say that again. We start to worry when we want to control the unknown, when we want to control uncertain outcomes. It's basically saying, I don't trust the uncertain future, so I'm going to do my very best to plan and prepare and do everything I can to ensure it goes this way. You know, something that always comes to mind for me is my mom. Every time I get in the car and I go to drive somewhere, she always says, be safe, drive safe, as if I'm not gonna drive safe. Because here's the deal, her and I both know that every time I get in my car and I go to drive somewhere, there is a chance of something happening. So because she's aware of that, every time I go to get in my car, every time I go somewhere, she has to remind me, drive safe. Why? Because clearly there's that worry, that thought in the back of her head that something could happen. And she doesn't want anything to happen. So she feels the need to say, drive safe, and remind me something could happen. And don't get me wrong, there is absolutely nothing wrong with her telling me to drive safe. That shows me she cares, that shows me she loves me. But the fact is, the reason that she says that is because deep down, she is scared of a potential outcome. And the truth of the matter is, her reminding me to drive safe most likely will not change a single thing if something was to happen. It's not like I don't know to drive safe, but every time she says it, you know that deep down, it's because she's scared of something bad happening. And although we can be scared of the future, we can be scared of these things that could happen, we have the ability to decide whether or not we are going to allow these thoughts of the unknown or what could happen to consume us or not. I'm not kidding you. There's not a single time I go to leave the house where she doesn't say it. And it's like, I get it. I know that you care. I know that you don't want anything to happen. But it also gets to the point where we can't live our life worried about the unknown and trying to plan for it, trying to prevent certain things from happening. Because the truth is, if something did happen to me on that road, she's most likely going to internalize that and feel like, if only I did something more, if only I said something else, if only I did this, and that, I could have changed it from happening. And that is just not true sometimes. And here's the fact. Jesus, God, tells us not to worry at all. At all. Matthew chapter 6, verses 25 through 27, he says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is life more than food? Is not life more than food? And the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, or I guess for us, our pantries. And yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? Jesus knows how precious I am to my mom in this example, and how awful it would be if something did happen to me while I was out there on the road. But yet he calls my mom to not worry about it, to not worry at all. Why? I think number one, even if I did get into an accident or not, my mom worrying about it isn't going to change a single thing. It's not. Because she's not going to be able to do anything. Remember, worry is trying to control uncertain outcomes. I just recently posted a podcast on control, and the fact is, we don't have much control over anything. Especially not the future, especially not uncertain outcomes. It's literally trying to control something that you had no control over at all. That's what worry is. So what's even the point? What's the point of even spending your precious time and energy thinking about it? That's no way to live your life, because all that's going to do is create a cycle of you living in fear. And here's the deal. If we truly believe in God, then we should know that God is in control. He is sovereign over all things, over all circumstances, both good and bad. He knows the end from the beginning. That's Isaiah chapter 46, verse 10. And he works all things for the good of those who love him. That's Romans chapter 8, verse 28. Therefore, if God, the all-knowing being who loves us more than my mom will ever love me, the all-knowing God who loves us that much tells us not to worry, isn't he basically saying, I have it under control, so you don't have to? That I can see option A through option Z of how everything can go down, and you don't? The truth is, Jesus would tell my mom not to worry about something happening to me in a car crash. Not because he wants something to happen to me in a car crash, but because he knows more than we do that by us worrying, we are carrying a burden that we are not meant to carry. Not to mention that worry is a distraction. Worry is a distraction because every single time we choose to worry, it's basically saying we don't trust the one that's in control. What if Mary, the mother of Jesus, was super worried about Jesus dying? Like, no, you can't take him. No. Praying to God, no, please don't take my son. Please don't take my son. A mom never wants anything to happen to their children. Well, a good mother, at least. A loving mother. But if Mary was to do that, that would be Mary praying for her will and not God's will. So sometimes we can have resentment towards God through not understanding the bigger picture, not understanding why certain things happen the way they do. We can start to wrestle with God. Why did you allow this to happen to me? Why did you allow this person to die? Why do you allow and yet you got horrible people walking around on this earth and good people are dying? You know what I mean? You could go on and on and on. It's a lack of understanding. He is a fair and loving God, and his plans are perfect. His actions are perfect because he sees the bigger picture that we don't. And he knows full well more than we do that worry, all it's going to do is rob us of our peace and fill us with fear. That the only thing it's truly going to do for us is drain us, not change any outcomes. Truly. It is mentally draining. Picturing scenarios, thinking of uncertainties. It's not good for us. The only thing we are ever going to truly have is the present moment, right now. There is always going to be an unknown future. There will always be a past. We can choose to worry over that unknown future. Or we can choose to say, you know what? My God, the one who made this universe, the one that made me and everything I love in it, knows what that unknown future holds, and I don't. He knows the unknown future, and I never will. He knows what's going to happen, and I never will. And we have to trust in the one that does. And it sucks because sometimes things don't go our way. Sometimes it seems as though things are unfair. But I'm telling you right now, if you're worrying about that unknown future or about what could happen in the unknown, it's because deep down, you don't trust God. You don't trust that God is going to get you through anything and everything, no matter how low you go, no matter how high you go, no matter what you go through. I know people that blame God for the death of their family members, as if God was the one that literally smited them. God allows things to happen. He allows suffering to happen. He allows us to feel pain. He allows us to feel those lows. Number one, because if we don't feel those lows, we will never truly know what it's like to feel the highs. And number two, because he knows that one day he will destroy death. That one day he will wipe away every single tear from your face. One day you will be reunited with those loved ones. And he knows that. And you need to trust that what he says is true. It's a true foundation. And so when we worry, and we don't understand God's ways, learn them, because it'll help that fear. It'll help that untrustworthiness that we have against God that causes us to worry. God knows even if something did happen to me in a car crash, it's all gonna be okay. That's not the end. It's not going to destroy her. It's horrible. It would be horrible, I guess, for her. But he knows that's not the end. He knows that's not the bigger picture. And I probably shouldn't have chose that example. But the whole point that I'm trying to make is through us thinking and worrying about these unknown things, it's not truly going to change a thing, is it? The only way we can truly let go of that anxiety, let go of that fear, is through trusting God. And trusting that no matter what happens, no matter how bad it gets, it's gonna be okay. We follow a God that delights in providing for his children, who delights in taking away your pain, taking away your worry, taking away your suffering. We have such an extremely loving God that we get to call him Father, friend, and he is fully aware of everything we need before we even know we need it ourselves. And there is a difference between our needs and our wants. So we truly know that God is going to provide, and he has our best interests in mind, and that everything is not truly on our shoulders. Then we can let go of that fear and that worry. Fear of inadequacy, worry about the future, and we get to experience his peace. And let me explain something, okay? I know I bring up this example a lot in my podcast, but when I received the phone call that my dad was dead, and not only that he had taken his own life, he was deceased, not of natural causes, not because something had happened to him in a car crash, but because he decided that he wanted to do that. It hit me like a Mack truck. For weeks following that day, I would wake up in the morning, and the second that I had consciousness, I would remember that it was not a dream and that this was my real life, and I would wake up and burst into tears because I wanted so badly for it to be a dream, to wake up from this reality that I was in. I couldn't even fathom that I was going to have to live the rest of my life in this new reality. And I internalized this every time I went and I hung out with one of my loved ones, my grandmother, my mom, my boyfriend. Every time that I would leave them, I would start to cry. And it took me a long time to realize that I had grown afraid that it could be the last time that I saw them. I started to live in fear. I started to be afraid that I need to take in every moment because this could be the last time I ever see them again. And at first, I lacked the understanding. I'm like, God, why did you allow this to happen to me? Why didn't you do something? You knew that this was going to happen. Why didn't you intervene? Why? And the truth of the matter is, yes, he knew it was going to happen. But he is a God that loves us too much to ever force us to do anything. If my dad chose to do that, God is going to let him do that. And unfortunately, we have people out here on this world doing things that God does not approve of. And so the truth is, we are always going to have free will. We are always going to be in control of what we do in this life and in the next. 1/3 of the angels decided to rebel against God and go against him. So many people on this earth decide to go against God and bring upon so much suffering. Do you think God condones taking your own life? No. Because he knows it's going to bring pain. He knows it's going to bring suffering. But the most amazing thing about God is he doesn't want you to live in the suffering, in the fear. He doesn't want it to control you. He wants you to pause, to look at him, to remember that he is in control, to remember to not let the fear get the best of you, to remember to not worry if something's going to happen to them, and to not take a single minute for granted. And so although we have the ability to sit here and plan for plan A, and if plan A doesn't happen, plan for plan B, and if plan B doesn't happen, then plan C. And we have the ability to get mad at God when things do not go our way. To get mad at him for not doing something, for not doing it the way that we would want him to do it. Or we can choose to trust the all-knowing God. To trust that things happen the way they do, not because he wants it to happen that way per se, but that he does have a plan. And it's an amazing plan. And I know that you may be struggling. And I know that you may feel like you have every right to be worrying about this thing because it could make or break everything. And what I'm trying to say is that no matter what happens in your life, no matter how low you go, no matter how high you go, no matter what you go through, easy, difficult, challenging, he is there with you. You are not doing it alone. I truly know deep down that the only reason I'm not depressed, the only reason I get to feel joy and peace on a daily basis is because it's not from me. Matthew chapter 6 verse 33, it says, "Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." What he's saying is your needs will be met if your eyes are on him. And so although my want would be to turn back time and to text him and be like, please don't do what you're going to do. I know what you're going to do. Please don't do it. That would be my want. God knows my need is to know that everything is going to be okay. To know that this isn't going to break you. To know that no matter whatever you go through in your life, he will use it. He will make you stronger. And he knows what you need. And I've come to accept now that my dad is not suffering anymore. And I have peace knowing that. And so although it's not what I would have wanted, it's what I get. And so when we worry, we fixate on the problem. We think about the problem. We try to figure out the best way to deal with this problem. And God says, no, seek me, and I will deal with your problem. Because our first instinct is to deal with problems ourselves, deal with our feelings ourselves. But God promises that he sees us and will take care of us, no matter what situation we are in. So we have no need to worry when we are being cared for in ways that we can't even fathom. He never promises us that nothing bad will ever happen. But he does promise to be with us through every trial. David says in Psalm chapter 23 verse 4, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil." Why? Because you are with me. And then James, he reminds us in the book of James that every single trial is to produce perseverance and maturity. So it's not that God purposely made this happen to me so that I would grow and become more mature. But because that happened to me, he is going to use it to help me grow, to help me become stronger, to help me persevere. It's not that God causes these bad things to happen in our lives, but God is going to use it for his purposes, for his kingdom. There is nothing we can do that's going to surprise God. And he doesn't promise nothing bad's not going to happen, but he promises to be with you always, to help you through it. It's natural to fear the unknown. It's natural to want to plan for these things. But God just wants us to trust him. Why does God want us to trust him instead of worrying? It's because he wants us to be filled with peace instead of fear. The truth is, anything could happen to me every time I get on that road. But does he want my mom to be filled with fear? Or to be filled with peace, knowing that the worst thing ever could happen to her and she will be okay? The worst thing could, all 12 disciples were persecuted and martyred. That's horrible. But they didn't care. Why? Because they knew that they were going to be okay. Because they knew that this world isn't it. This world is not it. This world is not the end. And they knew that more than we ever could. That's why they had no problem going out there and preaching the word of God. They had no problem making enemies. They had no problem being persecuted for their faith because they knew the God that they served. We have the ability to lean on his strength, to lean on his promises. We have a God that is with us during everything that we go through. But if we never go to him, then we're going to be handling it on our own. If we never reach out to him, if we never consider him, if we forsake him, we are going to be feeling like we are handling everything on our own. But we don't have to. So I hope if there's one thing that I've done in today's podcast, it's to encourage you to trust the one who knows everything. It's to encourage you to go to the one who knows everything. We have so much uncertainty, so much fear, anything could happen, and we might not want it to happen, but the truth is it might. And if we spend all this time trying to prevent things from happening that might happen, we're going to be missing the full picture. Everything we need will be given to us if we seek him first. And what you need is to know you're not alone, to know no matter what you go through, it's going to be okay, and to know no matter how much you worry, you will never be able to control uncertain outcomes. So there's no point in even spending 1 minute of your precious time here thinking about it. Look to him and you will be okay. Please reach out to me if you feel like something is going on in your life, and no matter what I said in this podcast, you still want to worry about it. And I will remind you of the God that you have on your side. So if you made it this far, I want you to let me know in the comment section, vaguely if you want to, what it is that you have been worried about and what you're going to do with that worry. Today's song of the day is I Believe by Wickham. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And I cannot wait to talk to you again next time. Mwah.